Hi, it's Emily with Emily Talks. Welcome back. Today I'm going to have a fantastic talk with y'all about judgment and discernment and how to approach these two concepts because particularly in black and white thinking and dealing with difficult situations, it's easy to create maladaptive cognitions around what judgment is, and being able to release judgment and embrace discernment is a very important part of healing and growth, especially for me. And I know that if it's important for me, there's others out there who are just like me who need this help as well. So I really want to share the important distinction between what is judgment and what is discernment, and how to release judgment to embrace discernment. So I'm going to refer first to my notes. The definition for judgment per what I Googled, I probably Merriam-Webster or something. I'll probably, if I can figure out video editing enough, insert placard here that shows the definition of judgment. So judgment is the ability to make considered decisions or come to sensible conclusions. Judgment is super important, and we're starting to do judgment at a very early age because it's a part of conceptualization. So even if you think down to the most basic types of judgment, judging whether something is going up or down, or that's a type of way to approach the world if you think of it from sensible conclusions, right? That's part of this definition of judgment, is making sensible conclusions, and sensible being per the senses, and then the conclusion is the conceptualization or that cognition that comes from the sensory input. So, right, you can make a judgment if something is going up or down, and you must make judgments. It's the way that you come to conclusions, decisions or conclusions about the world around you. So when you decide that you're going to put milk or orange juice in your cereal. Some people do put in orange juice, so I'm not trying to knock it, but that's a considered decision because you've thought about the different things that go into what am I going to put in my cereal today. Judgments happen on such a small, consistent, always, just on a certain level where you're doing it all throughout the day in every single thing that you do. So judgments are important, and they happen whether you recognize that they're happening or not. The important part about what my video today is talking about is about releasing black and white thinking, about healing your mind and not fixating, about, rising to truth over camping and fact, which that again is going to bring me to another video, because it's, you can make judgments. I can make judgments on, that was a bad action, or this thing is good, and that's going to happen. But when I kind of close the doors on what my judgments are, and I cling to those judgments, or I identify with those judgments, or I place identity on others or situations or whatever with judgments without leaving myself open to learn new things, I can remain stuck. I don't have a growth mindset. And I also will end up with not having a mind to look to the future and look to the next thing, or even stay in this present moment right now, because my part of me is focused and attached to the judgments that I have made and that I've come to, and I'm not able to release myself and move forward. So from a growth mindset, this is where this is coming from. This does not, what I'm going to be talking about today does not mean release every judgment ever, because it's impossible. Releasing judgment altogether is an impossible thing to do because it's a basic part of human cognition. But it is important when you're thinking about not letting go of maladaptive cognitions and learning to grow and just continuing to grow. Even if I've gotten to a better level than I was before, I always want to continue that journey of growth and betterment. So now that we've talked a little bit about what judgment is and the concerns with judgment, discernment, the definition for this one, and hopefully I can magic it on the screen. I know that it's probably really, really simple to do, but I'm still working within my bounds to get out videos within a reasonable time frame. So if I can get the definition up here, great. If not, discernment is the ability to judge well, right? So discernment is that information gathering. It's observing myself making decisions, observing the sensory input that goes into the making decisions. If you think about it from the sense of sensible conclusions, sensible being according to my senses, right? And considered decisions is going to be thinking through those things. So taking a step back and looking at my cognitions, looking at the input that came in and how I have I like to say masticated on it, but, just worked it out and worked it into what I think and what I believe and how I approach the world. Staying in a state of discernment allows me to keep reviewing what my judgments are and not feel attached to my judgments. And this was really, really tough for me, and I'm going to tell you why. My history being what it was, the way that I was taught was that who am I to place judgment, right? That's a pretty consistent message within Christianity as well, and within the Bible, is that only God can judge, right? And that took a lot of the vocabulary and the concepts away from me to say, this is bad, this is wrong, this shouldn't be happening to me. I'm very careful with how I raise my son because I know I'm very imperfect. And I've tried to, for my own sake and for his sake, give him the vocabulary to say, Mom, what you did is wrong and bad, and you should apologize to me, or just be able to know that I am fallible and he is he can call me out if I've taught him better than how I am behaving, and it's not right what I'm doing. He can make a judgment on that, right? And he can call me out. So the way that I was raised in particular, I wasn't able to have that language. I wasn't able to speak up and speak out. And when I finally found out, when I finally learned within the concept of my philosophy, as I was growing past my childhood, but also growing past the philosophy that I was raised with, and I had internalized, I came to a place where I knew that I was the ultimate judge in my own life. Within what's relevant to me, I am the judge. There's no such thing as me not having the capability of judgment. Just like I said, judgment happens as a basic level cognition. It's not something that necessarily has to be this big thing about like God sitting on some judgment seat and saying good, bad, wrong, right, whatever. It's even up and down. It's a simple part of cognition. And that I could own things, and not only that, I could own my own judgments and know that they were, that it's mine to make, but also that I could then go back and say that was wrong, that was bad. And at the time, I embraced labeling as well. This is labeling an entire person, because it wasn't just the instance of what had happened to me that was wrong or bad, right? It wasn't that, it was bad that this action was bad that this person did, because it was bigger than that. The reason why those actions happened was due to the philosophy, the understanding, the ideas of those around me. And I really hope that this dog barking is not distracting, because I'm not going to go back and record this, so I apologize. Hopefully at some point I can get to a place where I can seal off that sound, but I've already tried this video maybe like 4 other recordings already before this one, so I'm just going to keep going with it. So, you know, part of when I made judgments about what had happened in my life, and judgments about what was good and knowing that it was good, and what was bad and knowing that it was bad, according to the worldview that I had and the information that I had taken in about reality, and realigning my priorities and my values, my life being the highest of these. All of these different things had me embracing judgment as something very, very important, and it is. But the way that I went about it, because I wanted to be able to label the philosophy which was behind some of the actions that happened to me, and some of the things that happened in my life were not at a surface level bad or wrong. It was the ideas that were pushed behind it that turned into this larger web of destruction, of destruction of what is good, and that is what made it bad. That's what made it evil. I ended up getting so identified with that, like identifying with those judgments, that I became stuck. And I was just talking with my friend yesterday, which I'm going to be posting that interview, and I was talking about the different levels of grief, and realizing that the judgment that I was in was kind of part of me going through anger, which is one of the stages of grief, and getting stuck there. And I was there for about 5 years, and I really held onto those judgments. The things that allowed me to move past these judgments and to recognize what the anger was, and to start healing myself and letting go of these maladaptive coping mechanisms, is that I attended this fantastic distress tolerance hospitalization program. And one of the very first things that I had to learn was to let go of the judgments, let go of the labels, and embrace discernment. And that's why I'm sharing this with you, because the judgments, judgment is going to happen regardless, because it's an important part of human cognition. And if you don't have that capacity to know that you are the ultimate judge in your life, there's nothing higher than you that's going to give you judgment apart from the facts of reality. If your judgments don't match up, the way that you're going to know is because you're going to lack efficacy. And what that means is when you go to do something that you want to do, you're not going to be able to achieve it because your thoughts are wrong. They're not calibrated and aligned with reality. They're at friction, and they're at conflict with reality. And that's the only other thing. Nobody can tell you that your judgments are wrong, and because they've said it, because they've judged, that doesn't make them better. The only thing that could make their judgment better is because it's more in line with reality. But their judgment cannot supersede you as far as the judge of your life, because you are the ultimate judge. It's an individual cognition that is based on reality, and the closer that you approach reality, those cognitions can be better, but it doesn't mean that anybody can ever by default be over you and be better than you by default without having weighed it against reality. There's just nothing like that. There's no superior thing that is going to have better judgment than you, because it's an individual, it's something that emerges from consciousness, from your individual consciousness. So absolutely, first, embrace that judgment is essential, and that you are the judge. And that's where that comes from. Those things are important concepts. But also be in a state of flux where you can learn more, where you can grow, where you can, as the definition of discernment is, you can have the ability to judge well. When you release judgment, when I release judgment, I allow myself to not stay stuck in one final decision about the state of an affair, the state of, is this good? Is this bad? Is it right? Is it wrong? What is best? What is worse? All of these things can be in continual growth and have that growth mindset. And it also doesn't leave me in a place where I'm camped and upset, or I'm trying to force towards some good thing that I'm not really sure how to attain, because I don't let myself have any flexibility. That inflexibility keeps me stuck, keeps me from growing. So this whole concept of embracing discernment and releasing judgment has everything to do with, let yourself continue to grow. Do not stay stuck. Release that judgment. The judgment's going to happen. Observe it. Honor it. But don't let it keep you from moving on and becoming the best person that you can be. And that never stops happening until the moment of your last breath. Don't sit on those judgments. And even if you are sure that you could make a final judgment and that that's over, release it anyway, because that is part of the past of your life. Move forward to learn more about the next thing. If it's truly just the last thing that you could say, this was good, this was bad, don't let it sit there next to you. Say, okay, I've addressed this, wish it well, wish it, and let yourself move on and move past and find out new things. Don't ever sit that you have known everything about a particular issue. For me, for myself, I don't ever want to feel like I have gone as far as I can go, because that sucks out the joy of life, the beauty of living, the beauty of thriving, of achieving values. I always want things to be just one further step ahead, because that's what continues to move me into the future. I really hope this information helps. I hope that, even if you're not necessarily struggling with this particular issue, that you can see me going through and looking closely at these definitions and these concepts to be able to better integrate them into my life, can give you a springboard to look at other concepts that you may need to be able to look at more closely. If there's something that is an interesting concept that you would like to explore, if you want to leave it down in the comments, please do so, because there may be something there for me as well. And what I'm here for is growth. I really appreciate it if you stuck around this far, and you guys have a wonderful rest of your week. Namaste, my friends.